Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Mostly From Scratch. I am your host Mr. Munchies and I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. Special thanks to my YouTube subscribers. So in this episode I am going to show you how to make cannolis. I was invited to a Christmas Eve dinner. This is going to be a traditional Italian Christmas Eve dinner, so I thought I'd make a traditional Italian dessert to go with it. So let's zoom in and get started on everything. Okay, first I want to go over the equipment that I'm going to be using. Now, I noticed over the past several episodes that I've posted, I've done a lot of frying, so I'm not going to be frying the cannoli shells as you would traditionally. I'm going to be using a Pizzelle iron. Let's see if we can get a little close up on this. A Pizzelle is a Italian cookie. So I picked this old relic up at a garage sale for a couple bucks, and it's very old, it's very finicky, so I am going to have to work with it to make sure my cookies don't burn. So I'm going to go ahead and get this plugged in, get it warming up. You're going to need something to wrap your cookies around. I just have a couple of pieces of aluminum tube that I picked up at the hardware store. You can use hardwood dowels. Make sure they're hardwood, not pine. You got to use something like oak. These are about 3/4 of an inch around. Okay, let's get into our ingredient list. You're going to need 1 egg. You're going to need 1/3 of a cup of white sugar, 1/3 of a cup of flour, 1.5 tablespoons of fat. I'm using coconut oil. You're going to need a pinch of salt, which is maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon. I mean, just a pinch. 1 tablespoon of baking powder. 1 tablespoon of flavoring. Now, I'm using vanilla extract. You can use lemon or orange or whatever you want to flavor your shells with. And then 1 tablespoon of water. So let's get our stuff mixed together here. Get our egg. Heat our egg up. Now this batter is going to be very thin because you want these cookies to be very thin. Okay, now we are going to add our sugar. And take our flour. This is 1/3 of a cup. Our salt, pinch of salt, mix that in there. And our 1 teaspoon, did I say tablespoon earlier? This is a teaspoon of baking powder. Put that in there and just take a fork, give those a quick incorporation. And then into our egg and sugar. Make sure you don't have anything dry left on the side of your bowl. Alright, now we're going to add our vanilla, or flavoring, your flavoring of choice, our water, and our fat. Now I'm using coconut oil. You could use vegetable oil, you could use a light olive oil, you could probably even use butter if you wanted. I just chose the coconut oil because it leaves a little bit of that coconut back taste there. It's not prominent, but it's just that hint. Alright, so let's take a look at our batter here. Are we in focus? See how nice and thin that is? It's almost like a thin pancake batter. Okay, so this old relic of mine here that I picked up at a garage sale, I think I paid like $4 or $5 for it. It's hot, so I am going to unplug it because this is the only way I have to regulate the temperature. I'm going to grab a spoon. Now you can find these Amazon, Bed Bath & Beyond, any place. They start at about $25, $30. The newer ones have temperature controls on them, so they're a lot easier to work with. What I'm going to do is take a couple of spoonfuls of the batter, drop it onto my iron, and then even it out with the spoon, right out to the edge. So because this thing is, like I said, such a relic, and it doesn't heat evenly, I've got to kind of work with this to get it to make the cookies the way I want. So what I've done, put the batter on there. Now it's coming to the point where it's starting to bubble at the top like it would if you were making a pancake right before you flip it. So now I'm going to take the lid and I'm just going to close it very gently because I don't want the stuff to ooze out. See, I got a little bit squeezing out right there. Plug it back in, and these take roughly 45 seconds to a minute maybe, depending on your iron. So now that they've had a few seconds to set up, I'm just going to squeeze this thing because I don't want them really thick, puffy like a pancake. But now that it's had time to cook a little bit, I can press down on it. That way, when they're done, my cookie is going to come out and it's going to be a little bit thinner than a pancake, but a little bit thicker than the pizzelle itself. See, if you were just making pizzelles, you'd use a thin batter, pour it on there, close it right away, and just let it cook. So I'm going to unplug this again because I don't want them to burn. So I'm going to split this episode into two. This first half is going to be showing you how to make the shells. The second half I'm going to show you how to make the filling and how to fill the shells, because I'm probably going to do some stuff to the shells, dip them in chocolate or something like that in between. So let's take a look at these. They're still kind of light. Get my iron heated up. Da 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 da. I mean, should I be playing some like music in the background or something like that? I don't know. Just take another look. Yeah, I think those. Yeah, that's done enough. All right, so we pull them out. See, they're still flexible while they're warm. So you gotta wrap them up onto your form while they're still hot. And as they cool, they're gonna harden up. And I think my iron may have been just a little too cool, because these should have been a little more brown. But anyway, you get the idea of how that works. Let me show you. I've already made some in advance, like a good cook does. Let me show you here. Focus. See how that looks? It's nice and thin. It's crispy. Can you hear that on the mic? And they taste yummy because I've eaten a couple already before I've gotten them filled. So that's basically it. And let me recap for you. All right, 1 egg, 1/4 cup of sugar, 1/3 cup flour, 1.5 tablespoons of fat of your choice, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, pinch of salt, 1 tablespoon of flavoring, and 1 tablespoon of water. All right, and that'll make, this will make probably 6 to 7 cookies. I'm doing it in small batches because I got to regulate it, and I don't want the batter setting too long as I'm cooking them. All right, so that'll do it for this half of the cannoli episode. I'm going to put a link somewhere around here to get you to the second half. Plus, there's going to be a little button somewhere around here for you to press to subscribe to the channel, because if you haven't subscribed yet, I don't know what's going on. You should be subscribing to my channel, because you're going to miss a whole bunch of good stuff. All right, so that'll do it for this half of this episode. I'm your host, Mr. Munchies. So everybody plate up and chow down.